The Twin Twist.
We call this here a little twin.
Twin, that's my twin.
You don't believe me? Go ask the twins.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Twin Twist Show, better known as 2T. I am Miss Nick, and this is...
I am Lady T, and we are real life twin sisters who are always having conversations about pop culture, current events, gossip and tea, and we decided let's start recording it.
Absolutely. So this video is really super fun and special for us. This is part 2 of the Music Sermon Madness 90s R&B Bracket, okay? So celebrity music columnist Naima Cochran, she put together this bracket March Madness style for the top R&B acts of the 90s. She posted it on Twitter and Instagram. The hashtag is Music Sermon Madness. So you guys, please go get the bracket, check it out. We want to know what you think about it. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. This is part 2. Okay, so in the first video that we posted, we did the women's side. Now we're going to do the men's, and I'm going to pull up our bracket so we could see what we went over on the last video.
I know some of those matches for the ladies were heartbreakers. I'm hoping we have an easier time with the fellas.
Absolutely. The seating is just off the chain. We have big powerhouse acts going up against each other in the first round, and somebody has to lose. So we had a couple of heartbreakers, but we're going to recap the first round. On the women's side, we have Mary J. Blige advancing versus Tamia. We have Aaliyah, who's going to be going up against Erykah Badu. This is a great matchup. Brandy versus Faith Evans. The incomparable Toni Braxton versus Kelly Price. And in the female groups district, we're going to have SWV versus 702. Escape will be going up against Brownstone. En Vogue against Total. And the ladies of TLC against the ladies of Destiny's Child. That was round 1 on the women's side. Now we are going to advance to the men's. Are you ready, T?
Let's go. Hey, on our first bracket, looks like we have Usher versus Eric Benet. Tell me what you're thinking, T.
Well, I think this is a pretty easy win right here. I'm gonna obviously choose Usher. Eric Benet, super talented, super creative. He has an amazing voice. Would you consider him neo soul?
No, not really. I think he's more like adult contemporary.
Okay. Yep. For me personally, I would go with Usher. We talked about it in the first video, cultural impact. He was like a huge mainstream megastar by the time he came out with the Confessions album. You know, it solidified his mark on the industry. Super talented, just a triple threat, you know, sing, dance. He's done films, you know, an amazing talent. So big ups to Eric Benet, but I am going to go with Usher.
All right, and I would actually have to agree. Obviously, Usher's cultural impact has just dominated for many years. Everybody gives him a lot of flack for that first album, but I loved that album. I used to play that from start to finish
I remember.
over and over again. Oh yeah, with that being said, like Eric Benet, shout out to him. He came out with some really hard hitters like that Let's Stay Together, the remix, the slow version.
Fire.
Oh
Loved it.
man, I used to play that all the time. But this bracket is pretty much seems like a no-brainer going to Usher.
Absolutely. So we agree that Usher is advancing. So
Let's
now
go.
let's go to the next matchup. The next matchup is Luther Vandross versus Joe. You go ahead. Fire away, T. What do you think?
All right. So this is tough. And in order to make it fair, since this is supposed to be our favorite artist of the 90s, then we can really only judge Luther by the music that he had come out during the 90s. So we can't include the epic, legendary hits 80s, right? So kind of looking at some of the songs he came out with in the 90s, like Power of Love, Don't Want to Be a Fool. Um,
Oh, no,
he
that's
did
fine.
that the album with covers, like he redid Always and Forever by Heatwave and the duet with Mariah Carey, My Endless Love. Um, but I give him big ups for excuse me, miss, what's your name?
Hey.
Okay, that was a whole banger. And if you throw that in with his entire discography, just of the 90's, I think he might have Joe. Joe did his thing. He had some hits. All the things your man won't do, and then like a little later on, I used to like uh oh, if I was your man.
Okay, sing.
All right. Let me get some hot tea, some warm tea for vocal
Oh,
cords.
warm ups. Me, me,
Right.
me.
Yeah, and then obviously Joe had his power ballads toward the start of his career. But I gotta get us to the GOAT, Luther.
Luther is indeed the GOAT. I agree with you 100%. I want to give Joe his props though. Shout out to Joe. He is a really amazing writer. He's done some stuff behind the scenes, outside of the booth, and some awesome stuff. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he wrote Softest Place on Earth by Escape, which is like,
Yeah.
even though it wasn't one of their singles from that third album, a lot of people say that that's their favorite Escape song. So
Definitely.
yeah, so he's written for other artists and stuff like that. So Joe is, he's the bomb. And of course, I don't want to be a player no more.
Come on, epic.
Yes, the remix with Big Pun. That was epic, so fun. But let's be let's be real. Luther Vandross is an icon, so obviously we both agree that he advances. So
Absolutely.
T, give us the next matchup.
So the next one is already got me stressed out. We have D'Angelo versus John B. What you thinking, Nick?
Okay, so I know that this is a lot easier for me than it is for you because I know you are a huge fan. But and then like that John B album, Pleasures You Like, just loved it. Loved just every single track. You couldn't skip one track. It was just a really, really, really good album. But as far as just like um overall, D'Angelo, we said it in the last video kind of about Erica Badu, just the definition of an artist, writer,
Yeah.
producer, musician, just all well-rounded. I think the cultural impact was significant. We have to we have to shout out the video, the untitled video. That was a an iconic cultural moment.
Yes,
Um,
Lord.
right. It's funny though because like in different interviews and stuff like that, it actually he said it was kind of like a turning point in his career because it kind of took him on a path he really didn't want to go. He's a musician, he's an artist, he's about the music, not about the image stuff. So he said in some interviews that he actually wasn't comfortable with that at all. But
Yeah.
I will go on record to say that I appreciated it very much so. And
Oh yeah.
for that video and all the other reasons, I am going to send D'Angelo to the next round. Okay, now I know this is tough for you. I know John B is your boy, so let me know what you're
Girl.
thinking.
Oh, I'm stressed. Okay. All right. So for the world that does not know, I am an enormous John B fan. I love him. His music speaks to my soul. It always has. And this is really tough for me. You mentioned Pleasures You Like. Now, a conversation that we've had frequently, and I think this might be an interesting posture, are classic albums that you can play from start to finish without having to skip a song. And there
Absolutely.
really are a handful of them. Usually there's an album with at least one or two throwaways where you're like, whatever. Um, but for me, specifically, like you mentioned, Pleasures You Like
Hmm.
is one of those albums. In addition to all of the other amazing things that he's done, um, just Are You Still Down, the collab with Tupac, and
Yeah.
even What You Say Boo, and
Oh,
They
that was
Don't Know.
cute.
Just
Yeah.
just he and he's a writer as well. We
That's
don't do
true.
John B. He got a pen game. Yeah, and then like some of the things you mentioned about D'Angelo, the fact that he is, like you mentioned, like a quintessential artist. You know that this music and this effort that he puts together every time he records or every time he performs is just a true labor of his artistic expression. And he never had to get naked to be recognized for that. Now, as you mentioned, I appreciate it. Good looking out, boo. I'm not gonna complain about it, but it didn't have to happen because his artistry really spoke for itself. Um, this is tough for me because I am such a John B fan. It's hard for me. Oh, John. Oh, I love you, boo. I love you. Oh, I don't want to say it out loud. That I love John B. But for the culture, I had to advance D'Angelo.
I know that that was hard for you. I know it was hard for you, but you did
Oh,
what you
my
had to
stomach
do.
hurt.
I know that was hard for you. Okay, so we have D'Angelo advancing, but shout out to John B. I know it. I know it was tough, T. I know it was tough. So we're gonna go on to the next matchup. Okay, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Now we have now we have Tevin Campbell versus Gerald Levert. All right. So what do you think?
Now, this is an interesting one too because obviously there's again, we want to focus on the 90s. So, um Tevin Campbell came out like in the early 90s, I believe 91. And listen, we not sleeping on young Tevin. Even Just Ask Me to, Goodbye, I'm Ready, Can We Talk? Then later on, like in the mid 90s, he came out with Come Back to the World.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
he had that original voice, like no one else sounded like him. It was mature and youthful at the same time. And then we have the teddy bear, Gerald Levert, who had the epic R&B ballads. He had the big husky voice, and we want to kind of separate his work with Levert and then the supergroup LSG. So we're just looking at his single songs, and
But can you do that? That's just dawned on me. Can you separate because it's like him in the totality. I don't know because I'm looking at the bracket, just skipping ahead, and I
mhm,
see like Johnny Gill, Bobby Brown, and then for the groups I see New Edition and Bell Biv DeVoe. So
mhm.
they're all separate acts, but when you're looking at the totality, you so I don't know. How do we do this? Do we group
Yeah, I think we have to
together?
look at the singular work. So
Okay.
if it's in reference to the group, we have to look at the work as that group. If it's in reference to that solo artist, which is what this particular bracket is, then we have to look to that solo artist works. So just off top, um, like the one song that kind of stands out to me when I think of Gerald Levert is "Baby Hold On to Me," but wasn't that a duet with
Oh,
his dad?
yeah, and I love that song. That
Yeah,
is, oh my God. I
and
love that
then
song.
so that go up because he goes crazy on the ad libs at the end is taking everything.
Oh yes, epic. With the video and the music video,
Yes,
epic, epic,
girl, he
epic.
goes bananas, bananas on
Okay,
the ad libs at the end.
so do we, because he has written for a lot of other acts and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So we've kind of referenced that before in other matchups. Do we mention that in this case?
Well, that's the thing. You know, when we first started this, we kind of said there are all kind of metrics that you can
Uh-huh.
use to pick your winner. And the truth is, the metrics for one bracket may not be the same for the other one. So we're just basing it on who we feeling. And we can feel them for a plethora of different reasons. But I don't want to get too caught up on the metrics because they can be different.
Okay. So
So
we're
in this
going with the
case,
feeling.
yeah, so much love to the Velvet Teddy Bear. Rest in peace, Big Gerald. We love you. We miss you. But I would have to advance Tevin on this. What about you, Nick?
Okay, this is really tough. They don't compare at all to me at
Hmm.
like in any way. Um, this, geez, this is tough. I would have went with Gerald Levert. Based on
Mm.
the things that I just said, the the different groups that he's been in, how you could be a success with Levert, how you could be a success with LSG and my body all over your body,
Hey.
babe. With Misty on the remix, like, are you serious? Like, just I they don't compare. Tevin Campbell is amazing. Um, I would have went with Gerald Levert for the reasons that we just said don't matter anymore, or don't,
Well,
I
you
don't
know
know.
what? I'm not mad at that. I don't have a problem switching to Gerald. I think that his body of work speaks for itself, and I do think that the fact that he has been able to be successful with different groups at different times. I think that his extended body of work is longer than Tevin's. Tevin's only had like a couple of really active years, and then he had to do his own thing, and I completely understand and respect why.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
yeah, I have no problem switching over to Tevin. I'm
But
sorry,
wouldn't
over to
that?
Gerald.
So I convinced you?
You
Oh
did.
my God, I convinced you. Yeah. But let the record show.
I'll get that to you.
I think the world is due for a Tevin Campbell project.
Oh
Like
God, yes.
past due.
Yes,
Okay.
especially with him recently, just kind of being um uh shouted out with the Can We Talk challenge that went on about a year or two ago. Yes,
Hmm.
come on, Kevin. Grace us with your presence.
Yeah, I think we need that. We absolutely need that. So Tevin, you go back to the studio, bring us some hot fire while Gerald Levert is going to advance to the next round. Okay, awesome. So, um, okay, cool. So, T, give us the next matchup.
All right. This one is another heartbreaker for me. Oh, I need a drink. We have Babyface versus Donnell Jones. What you got on this, Nick?
Okay, this is I know that you are a huge fan. This is not so much of a struggle for me. Clearly, Babyface, icon, legend. Donnell Jones, super talented. You know what's up. Epic song. It was like a song of the summer. It still bumps. I could put that on right now. It still bumps. Um, I some of these songs have not aged well, and I just think the whole premise of Where I Want to Be, a beautiful song, just melodically, is absolutely beautiful. With the little scat runs and all this stuff. But oh man, some of this stuff does not age well. And the whole thing of him
I can see
dumping
that the lyrics are
dumping his I mean,
the
I guess
lyrics are a
he's
little
being
selfish.
yeah, I mean, I guess he's being honest. You gotta give him props for that. And I think like on the unsung, like he actually said that that was like the real life situation with his
Mm-hmm.
wife or something. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if they were married or not, but they had a family. I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, it was a hit. It was like some stuff just does not age well, but it was still a beautiful song. But anyway, I think nowadays in the year 2023, that's
That
kind of
wouldn't be a
like
hit. It would be
uh,
problematic. He would be
it's in the
canceled.
the F boy category. Okay, get it together, Darnell. Babyface is going to advance for me. What do you think?
Okay, I'm sliding out my chair. You are right. I am a huge Donnell Jones fan. I think that Where I Want to Be is. I mean, although the lyrics are a bit selfish, I think that melodically and lyrically. I mean, the truth is the topic is some real stuff.
I
And
guess some real F boy stuff.
but it was a topic that you don't really hear a lot in music or a lot in songs. So for him even addressing, a song that clearly resonated to a lot of people outside of
Oh
the
yeah.
melody,
Mhm.
um, and just big ups for that. God, I just love him. I just, uh, you know that I love you is one of my
Oh,
all-time favorite feel-good songs. That song reminds me of spring when the weather changes. I just turn it up and open up all my windows and let the fresh air in.
hmm.
Yeah, just oh my God, I love that song. But you cannot, as much as I love Donnell, as much as I love Donnell, you just cannot take away from Babyface, his body of work, um, just everything that he's done. I mean, he came out in '86. I think it wasn't until his third album, because if we want to kind of focus on the '90s, his third album was For the You. That alone had Never Keeping Secrets on it.
Oh,
When Will I See You Again?
yes.
So just obviously for his body of work and for all the things he's done for the entire music industry.
And quite
Not even
honestly,
begrudgingly, I just have to give it to Babyface. Love
and
you,
I
Donnell.
think the fact that he did like that whole Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, like that, just uncomparable.
Yeah, and you
Like,
know what? It didn't get a lot of play, but recently he was looking back on the work that he did with the female artists for the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, and he collaborated with a bunch of like current female artists. I know he collaborated with Ella Mai and Coco Jones. And
yes, yes.
like yeah, he put out something like that recently. So, he's still an active writer, producer. He's still working with people. He's still making hits. Salute to one of the greatest to ever do it. So
One of the greatest
yeah,
indeed.
absolutely. So like I said, not even begrudgingly, as much as I love Donnell, I guess gotta go ahead and get at the face.
Absolutely. So congratulations for moving on, Babyface. Shout out to Donnell Jones in
I love
Chicago.
you. Yes, Shy Town.
All
All
right.
right.
The next matchup, T, we got Bobby Brown versus Keith Sweats. Wow.
This is this is easy for me. Keith Sweat, love you and appreciate you for all the work that you've done. Obviously, like that earlier work, of course, the iconic Make It Last Forever, even though I think that was like the late '80s. But
Yeah.
even looking into the '90s, Nobody,
Mm-hmm.
and keep it coming, girl, I want it.
Hey,
I can never get enough of your loving.
that
Yeah, and
was
then he's a writer as well.
fire.
He's written for
Mhm.
other people and produced and managed. So giving Keith all the props that he deserves. But Bobby Brown, for everything that he is, for his big personality, for his I think he's a bad boy and he's done some bad things, but at his core I think he's tenderhearted and a really good guy. I'm eternally rooting for him. You cannot sleep on his hits. Like of course the iconic Don't Be Cruel, that first album was like late 80s.
Yeah, yeah.
So but even going into technically his third album with humping around and I gotta
Gotta,
get away.
hey, I gotta get away.
And then again, one of my faves to this day is the duet with the iconic Whitney, Something in Common.
Yeah. Now, why is Whitney not on the bracket?
You know what? I think that is an interesting. Well, I mean, well, no, she did her thing in the '90s. I think that we
Yeah,
should kind
the
of look back
Bodyguard
at this.
soundtrack.
Yeah, we
The
should look
Bodyguard.
back at this and we should do like maybe a snubs list, the people who should have been included on here somewhere, but were left off.
Yeah, that's. I'm just now noticing. Like the Bodyguard soundtrack just kind of shuts it down immediately. I don't. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's go back to the solo men's bracket. We got Bobby Brown versus Keith Sweat. I'm gonna agree with you. I don't think because there was so much of like the tabloid stuff,
Hmm.
people forget that Bobby Brown at the height of his success, it was ridiculous. And people
Facts.
always they would ask like, how did he and Whitney get together? But the people forget that when they got together, they were equal. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
some might even say that he was the bigger star because she was kind of pop and the culture, some parts of the culture wasn't checking for her. They said she was, a little too crossover, a little too pop.
Hmm.
So um at the height of his success, he was the biggest star out. So the music was so fun. But like you said, Don't Be Cruel did not come out in the 90s. It came out in the
Right.
80s. So but yeah, Getaway was the Jizzam Hot
The
Fire.
jam.
And Teddy Riley, I think Teddy Riley did that one too. So yeah, super awesome. I am going to enthusiastically advance Bobby Brown to the
Hey.
next round. Again, shout out to Keith Sweat. So the next matchup is going to be Maxwell versus L.B. Shore. Who you got, T?
Oh man. All right. So, um, again, if we're focusing on the 90s, I think that the bulk of Al B. Sure's like killer stuff came out like in late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously, Night and Day and Off on Your Own Girl, and even the cover of Killing Me Softly. I think he did do some other albums after that, but I can't recall offhand like any other notable singles that kind of stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Maxwell, he was that deal in the mid 90s. Like even something something, he had two versions. He had the up tempo for the steppers and the
Yes.
ballroomers. Yeah, and then he had the mellow smooth version. And I loved Fortunate. Um like that was something that I would repeat a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times on the road. And then obviously everybody loved This Woman's Flirt. So
I,
I would have to advance Maxwell on this. What
okay.
you thinking?
So again, this is kind of weird because I'll be sure, like we established that a lot of his stuff came in the 80s, the late 80s,
Mm-hmm.
not quite to 90s, but he was writing all this music. He was writing for Jodeci. And
Yeah, true.
so like how do you include this in these matchups? Like I don't know. It's not as clear cut as if you're writing the impact that Jodeci had and he contributed to it, I don't know if it's such a clean cut matchup, if it's just such an obvious matchup. Because I am thinking about total impact.
Mm-hmm.
Um oh man, so this is really tough for me. Uh I don't know. I am going to agree with you, go with Maxwell because Fortunate was a jam. So but yeah, this is tough because I'm thinking Albie Shore was a huge contributor to the success of Jodeci. So he had an impact on the cult that when we talk about cultural impact and stuff like that. So this is really like the first round is supposed to be easy. Like this
Yeah.
stuff right here is not so easy. But I'm going to very narrowly advance Maxwell, I guess. Have we agreed on Oh no, we had disagreed earlier on. Okay. Yep. So Maxwell is gonna advance. T, give us the next matchup.
All right. So next we have Brian McKnight versus Johnny Gill. How do you feel about this one?
Brian McKnight versus Johnny Gill. Again, this is a tough matchup. This is really tough. Brian McKnight, uh, the definition of an artist,
Mhm.
songwriter, uh,
Musician.
lyricist, a musician, a crooner.
Mm.
Just his voice is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then you got Johnny Hill, just the powerhouse. He does the ballads. He does the dance tracks. Uh this is uh this is tough. I I could be swayed either way.
Okay.
I am going to I could be swayed either way. I'm gonna go with Johnny Gill.
Whew. All right, here we go. Um, So for me, Bribe Night, that first album with One Last Cry, and that was again one of those albums that you can listen to from beginning to end without skipping a
Absolutely.
track.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and the other album, Crazy Love, Anytime, Back
Oh,
at One, like these are epic songs that people have sung at their weddings.
oh,
um, yeah, I mean his music is the soundtrack to love, literally.
it is.
And then JG, man, what can you say? That voice that he has is just crazy. And what I love about his story is that, you hear a lot of time about people who, maybe had a couple of opportunities in the music industry and then they just kind of gave up. Well, his voice was so big, but they didn't know what to do with him because you had this young guy with this big voice. He had come out with several albums before they decided to put him into New Edition, which ended up being like one of the best things to happen for him because finally when he put out his solo album after the New Edition effort, that's when he went hard with Rub You the Right Way, and then obviously the iconic My, and then my favorite song on that album was Lady du Jour.
Oh,
But
yes.
Johnny has been consistent. He is always continuing to put out new music, always has new projects, always, and because of again his not only solo work but his opportunities and experiences with other groups, he's been on the road consistently, making money. If New Edition don't want to act right, he can tour on his own. Oh, this hurts. This hurt bad. I need another drink. But I think I will go with Johnny as well.
Okay, yeah, this is brutal. This is brutal.
Yeah,
Okay, so
gosh.
that's it. That is our solo men's region. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to update the bracket and proceed to the next region. And here it is. Our bracket is updated. So advancing to the next round, we're going to have Usher versus Luther Vandross, D'Angelo versus Joe Levert, Babyface versus Bobby Brown, and Maxwell versus Johnny Gill. So the solo men's region is all set. We are moving on to the male groups. This is going to be a fun one. All love boy bands. They've all, we've all had our crushes. We've all had our posters on the wall. So this is going to be super fun. I can't wait to get into it. The first matchup is Boyz II Men versus Lavert. Who you got, T?
Alrighty, so, man. So, Boyz II Men versus Levert. So, obviously, Boyz II Men came out like early 90's, I think 91, and obviously they came out with a bang. Um, that Motown Philly album was a classic. It had Please Don't Go and uh, ah, and then they went on to make other like epic hits like End of the Road and I'll Make Love to You. Um, but since there are a plethora of things that we can do to come up with our pick, I kind of got something that we really never discussed before, and that is kind of like their attitude. We recently discovered that several people say that Boyz II Men. I believe them.
Okay, wait, say that again. It cut out.
They said this. So we learned that recently several people in the industry have said that Boyz II Men are kind of jackholes, and I believe them.
So you
And
think
I
that should
can't
be a
help.
factor? You think that should be a factor in them
I
advancing or
think
not?
that this is a factor for this particular bracket.
Oh my gosh.
With that being said, I don't want to take away from Levert. As a collective, the two brothers and the cousin, like they did their thing. Obviously, their time frame or like their active years were a little bit earlier, so they're kind of like late 80's
Mm-hmm.
ish. But like in the 90's, they came with the Baby I'm Ready and ABC 123, so they had their hits in the 90's as well. But Boys and Men had bigger hits and maybe a bigger impact. Obviously, they have the accolades and the awards and all that good stuff. to support them, but the fact that they are jackholes, I'm going with Levert.
Wow. That I thought that this would be a no-brainer. I mean, honestly, T, it's kind of I would basically just generally assume that most of the people in this bracket probably fall into that category. I mean, it is what it is. They have, fame, money, notoriety. Most of them have probably, felt themselves at one time or another, just like really thinking that they're all that. The stories that have come out recently have been, very entertaining.
They need a
uh,
reality show.
oh yeah, that would be interesting. Oh, talk about groups that couldn't get along and stuff like that. They went from 4 to 3, so yeah, very
Shout
very
out to Big
interesting.
Mike.
Very interesting. This take is very interesting. I did not consider that at all because, like I said, I assumed that probably everybody on this bracket will fall into that category at least at some point in their career, especially at the beginning. You got to give young people a little bit,
Say
a
everybody
little
been a
bit of
jackhole
leeway.
once.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it is what it is. Usually that comes with being a diva. It's a reason why people are drawn to somebody who is nasty because they have just so much talent and so much, they're so extraordinary in other areas that very interesting, very interesting. I have to give Levert mad props for the New Jack City, buddy, 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 buddy,
Yes,
buddy,
come
buddy,
on now.
buddy, buddy. That was epic. That whole scene was epic when Cash Money Brothers was taking over for the 9-1. um, yeah, so yeah, I have to give Levert props, but obviously, T, come on, voice of it. They need to advance. I mean, it is what it is. I cannot let you pick Levert over
I'm just in a
voice of man.
pace right now. I already had to give up John B. and Donnell Jones.
It is what it is. I cannot let you.
Of my frustration.
I have to override this. Voice of man has to advance.
Not a straight up over.
Yes, yes. This is a dictatorship. I can't. I mean,
Mm. Okay, all right. So next we have Jagged Edge, JE versus BBD, Bell Biv DOE. What are your thoughts on this, Nick?
okay, so this one to me is actually pretty easy. I will probably get like a lot of hate for this statement, but Jagged Edge, very talented vocalist, but I have always thought that all their songs were boring. Just 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 kind of like a Casio beat. Like shout out to JD. I
My
know
mouth
that
is open.
you are a legend, but some of those tracks were just very just like you pushed a couple of buttons on a
Not
computer.
not a couple of Casio keyboards.
Just like, yeah, you
Don't
just
do that.
punched in a couple of buttons on a Casio keyboard and told them to get in the booth. And they can sing, very strong vocalists. And I believe that they wrote all the lyrics for all their songs and stuff like that. I just thought it was super boring. Each and every song was just a track. There was no like like musicality. It wasn't like any changes in the music. Maybe they just JD pushed the button to add strings for the chorus with just like one click on his Casio. So we talked in the last video about would you about not purchasing, somebody's music not being enough for you to purchase it. I thought that each and every single one of Jagged Edge's songs were boring, except for the uh the thing with Reverend Run, the remix, Let's Get Married.
Let's Get Married.
But again, we're talking about songs that the lyrics just do not age well we ain't getting no younger. We might as well do it. Like, that's the worst proposal ever. And then I have to give them props for, like I said, the ballads were, to me, were just snooze fest. But where the party at with Nelly? I like that one. That was hot. I like it. So yeah, make some more fast songs, please, because those ballads were a snooze fest. So Bell Biv DeVoe, Cultural Reset. Shout out to Ricky Bell. Um, Ronald DeVoe has been my boyfriend since I was been about 9. It
That
is
is
what it
true.
is.
Poster on the wall with hearts
Yes.
drawn around it.
It is what it is. We've been to see them a couple of times in concert, even recently, and they still put on a good show. A
Definitely.
little bit older,
Right.
but now they save the choreography for certain points in the show, and when they bring it, it's like, come through, 8 counts, come through. So and like Ricky sounds amazing. He sounds
Yes.
so good live.
Yeah.
And honestly, when they put out that album after the movie came out, when they put out that album was
Three
hot. It had
Stripes.
some really good songs on there too.
Mhm.
So clearly, to me, Bill DeVoe moves on. What do you got?
Okay, first off, you are not gonna do JE like that.
Boring.
First off, I have to send twin love to the lead singers, Brian and Brandon. Shout out to the twins. We supposed to stick together.
Oh, sorry.
They had epic ballads. He Can't Love You. Oh, that used to be my
Boring.
jam. Oh, that was my jam. And the Let's Get Married ballad. Okay, we can argue about the method in which he proposed, but I loved that song. I love the slow version of that song. We're not gonna do JE like that, okay?
Oh my gosh.
With
Boring.
that being said, Poison alone, like you said, it reset the whole culture. It changed how we listen to music. It was maybe the first real true blend of rapping and singing.
Yes, yes.
Over a hard hitting beat that still rocks to this day.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the Three Stripes album, the album that came out in 2017, right after the movie, which was obviously phenomenal. Everybody loves that movie.
Epic, iconic, amazing.
That Three Stripes album was really, really good.
It was.
It was very good. It was one of those we mentioned before, like start to finish. I think it might have been maybe one cut you might have just skimmed over. Other than that, it was an outstanding album. They had to do
So are we breaking our own rule talking about this album that came out in 2017 for our 90s bracket?
Well,
are we breaking our rule?
We're talking about that album because we want to talk about that album. I don't think that album has anything to do with them advancing.
Okay.
In this particular bracket, they got the bracket whether or not that 2017 album is in the conversation or not. I just big up to the album. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
But I agree. I'm not disrespecting JE like you did, but I agree the BBD gets this bracket.
Boring. Argue with the comment section. Okay, so congrats to Bell Biv DeVoe and shout out to Jagged Edge. Our next matchup is New Edition versus Troop. This is I mean, you got to do what you got to do, T.
I'm stressed and I need something for my blood pressure. Okay. Now, it's a no-brainer. The iconic New Edition definitely gets this. But if we want to be specific to the 90s, and for me personally, this would get it. Like Any Heartbreak came out in like the late 80s, maybe 88, 89-ish.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that New Edition put out in the 90s was the Home Again album. Right. The Home Again album, which is the first album with all 6 of them.
Yes,
the first all 6 album. Now I would have to kind of look up to see what that album did commercially. But for me personally, that is my favorite New Edition album. That is also an album that we mentioned it before, start to finish, no skips. That whole entire album was excellently done. And And we kind of mentioned this before in the other video, but you talk about groups where everybody got to shine, everybody got to do their part, everybody sang, everybody performed. That album highlighted all six of them in different ways and different combinations. And you might have two of them singing here. You might have a song where all six of them get to participate. You might have a song that's more heavily um, bass driven, so you got the two rappers of the group doing their thing. That album was a perfect blend of all six of their talents, all six of their voices, all six of their inputs into them as a group. And that alone, even without all the things they did before and all the things they did after, and the fact that they're just 40 years in the game and still relevant, still doing their thing, still have tons of fans, would have them take this bracket from me. With that being said, I, to my core, am a huge Troop fan. Love them, love them, love them. That Attitude album with
Yes.
the iconic Spread My Wings,
Yes.
iconic All I Do Is Think of You, which many
Yes.
people have voted as the absolute best cover ever. You
Yeah.
when somebody remake a song, it
Yeah.
don't compare to the original. That
Hmm.
is by far one of the best. Where you think about that song, you don't think about Jackson 5, you think about Troop. So I'm giving
Absolutely.
them all props all day, every day for everything they've done. Um, they're one of those groups that just, it's maybe for internal conflicts or not enough support from the record label, or I remember seeing their unsung. It's kind of unfortunately a familiar story, but they are a group that just did not meet their full potential by no means. And I wish that they had but for the efforts that they did put out, I am a true fan. Love them, love them, love them so much. But gotta give it to
Mhm.
you, Edition.
Yeah, and that's funny because Steve got a lot of shine from that verses with
Oh,
Omarion and Mario. People was
Shade.
like, yeah, because Mario kept shouting him out. People was looking up like, who's Steve Russell? Who's like, y'all better
Right.
recognize, do your research. Troop was everything. But yeah, I agree, agree with you
Yeah, rest in peace to
100%.
their group member Reggie who passed away.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, unfortunately, it's just one of those things because of
Yeah.
how the seating goes. But New Edition obviously is going to advance. We agree on that.
And then let
Okay.
me let me put this out here and then we go to the
Hmm.
next bracket. As far as choreography, the choreo and Spread My Wings,
Hmm.
one of by far the best choreography to an urban 90s video, point the blank the period.
Yeah, epic.
They ripped.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to New Edition. We are going to move on to the next match up. Okay, we got Tony has done it again. And after seven, ready or not. Are you ready, T? What you got?
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, so shout out to After Seven, of course. Baby faces, what, brothers and cousin or family member or something like that. But yeah, obviously they did their thing. They had some big hits out there. Ready or Not and Can't Stop
Oh yeah.
How I
Mm,
Feel.
mm, yeah,
Yeah,
fire.
they definitely did their thing. So big ups to them. They put out some really good music. However, Tony, the iconic band from Oakland, I totally have to give it to them. They just come out with some hits that just kind of are the soundtrack to your life, like the earlier stuff. It feels good, and then the ballads. It never rains in Southern California,
Yeah.
and whatever you want.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
that's
again, it's funny because we've come across several artists who have one of those top tier albums that you can listen
Sons
to
of
from beginning to
Soul.
end. Sons of
Sons
Soul,
of
1993
Soul.
is
Yeah.
one of those albums for me. I can put it on when I'm cleaning the house and don't
Every
have to play
track.
with the music at all. It is,
Every track.
yeah, it is really one of those epic classic albums with Anniversary and of course Lay Your Head on My Pillow. And yeah, for this bracket for me, it's an easy Tony.
After seven, shot rest in peace to Melvin, passed away. Kevon Edmonds, just the signature voice, he was the
The
voice of the
tenor,
group.
yeah.
Yeah, nobody sounds like him. Yeah, his tenor, high notes and everything like that. Nobody sounds like him. They were awesome. Of course, you got the powerhouse Babyface that's writing and producing for them. They were super talented. The picture that I chose, so funny because they are getting their smiles on. I was Googling the photographs and I'm like, yes. So the picture, I absolutely love the picture. So that's why I chose that one. They are, what is it called? Blue steel. Like they're getting the smiles on. Yes. But Tony, just Sons of Soul is one of my favorite albums of all time, of all eras, of all decades. Uh, Group, solo, male, female, whatever. Sons of Soul is one of my favorite albums ever.
All right, so next oh, we have Jodeci versus H-Town. What you got on this, Nick?
Okay, so um, let's make this fast. This is a no-brainer. Um, Jodeci cultural reset, just iconic what they did as far as fashion, culture, the music. They were church boys. They put the gospel spin with the R&B lyrics and the hip hop influenced beats and just the perfect combination. You know, Puffy helped steer it all together. They were working with Devontae, young, fresh talent as far as production. Um, as we mentioned before, Al B. Sure wrote "Forever My Lady," the signature ballad. Just they, the impact was just enormous, phenomenal. JoJo Haley could sing to me every day of the
All
week.
day,
He
all
could sing
day.
the phone book. He could sing. He could read the ingredients on a can of soup. As long as he's singing it to me, I love, love, love JoJo Haley's voice. Peace out to all of them. They are just phenomenal artists. I wish them well. There's been talk of them touring again.
Yeah,
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see everybody healthy,
yeah.
and everybody back on stage. That I think that would be so amazing. I mean, I really don't have much to say about H Town. I thought that Knocking the Boots was so ridiculous and dumb. Again, argue in the comments. I know it was a big hit, but I never was feeling it. It just sounds so dumb. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I thought it was so dumb. But yeah, shout out to H Town though. Sorry.
Okay. Knocking the Boots was a bop. You gotta okay, give them their props. It was a bop. But
So,
obviously they don't have the catalog to compete with Jodeci. Rest in peace to Dino, the lead singer who passed.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but Jodeci, as you mentioned, the cultural impact, they were like the original R&B thugs, but now the R&B thugs just do too much. But they were like the edge, the sex appeal, the boots and the open vest,
Yes.
leather vest, and just, and then what was interesting is that they were grimy, but they had the sweetest ballads.
Yes.
Um, Again, the production, the writing, big ups to Devontae, for all the efforts that he put into the group as far as, their sound, and obviously Casey, JoJo, just two incredible voices that are so different but work together so well. It's so interesting because they are related, but they have totally different styles.
Yes.
And you have just the tenderness of JoJo's voice. Just a little love is all I need. It just, when you hear that, it just literally feel like somebody is hugging you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, amazing. Just
Right.
yeah.
And then you have like the what do I want to call it? Just like the conviction
Yeah.
of KC's voice. Like you
Yeah.
believed him. when he said something like, okay, Casey, all right, baby. But yeah, just go ahead and give it to Jodeci.
Absolutely.
Jodeci.
Yeah. So we are moving on to the next matchup. We have Guy versus Silk. What do you think, T?
Yeah, this is not a difficult one for me either. No shade to Silk. They did their thing. Some of the standout songs for them, obviously their biggest song was Freak Me, but to me, their standout was Lose Control. I loved Lose Control.
Mm-hmm.
They were real singers,
Mm-hmm.
real vocalists. Everybody in the group could blow. Um, Super tight harmony. So I appreciate all real singers,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a lot of these groups, you might have one person who's singing and three background dancers. No, they were all real vocalists. So I definitely give them props and shouts for that. But Guy changed the game.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Teddy Riley fostered in something that was so unique, so different, the whole New Jack Swing style. And then he put together a group that just kind of took it and totally ran with it. Um, we kind of were looking directly to specifically to the 90s, because that first album, the first Guy album, came out in like the late 80s. So technically, I guess we're not supposed to be able to count that. But I think the future with Let's Chill, and they remade Yearning for Your Love, that came out in like the 90s. That album alone is super iconic.
Yeah.
Then, of course, Teddy's Jam and Teddy's
Oh,
Jam 2.
jam, jam. Fire. Absolutely fire. Yep. So
Yes.
this is a no-brainer. I agree 100%. Teddy Riley, Guy, New Jack Swing, just the cultural impact. Absolutely. Silk, I have to give them their props. My favorite song, I thought that Freaking You was ridiculous. I don't know, it's just like these songs about sex, it's supposed to be, kind of slick and kind of, smooth with it, not ridiculous. They sound like something that a kid would say that's never seen no parts of it. It's just,
Well, maybe this is like when the start of sexual songs weren't innuendos anymore. It was just like
I guess so. It's supposed to
run
be,
that.
yeah, it's supposed to be, kind of, little coy, little hint, wink,
Cheeky
wink.
and flirty, yeah, but
Yeah.
now it's just like, what up
Um,
though?
Lose Control was fire. It was just beautiful, beautiful ballad.
Hmm.
My favorite song by them was If You Feeling Like Loving Me,
Oh yeah, that
if
was a good one.
you, yeah, that was fire. And then when they got to the bridge and they started like the staccato, like I sound dumb, but anyway, they killed it. So shout out to Silk.
Shout out
Okay.
Little G.
Uh yes, but Guy is advancing. So let's go to the next matchup. 112 versus High Five. What you got, T?
Yeah, so this is another one where I need a really stiff drink. I mean, I might have to do dark liquor on this one. This is tough. Obviously loved High Five. Tony Thompson's rest in peace. His voice was unique and original and special. His voice was special. They just had really just real feel good songs like Kissing Game and Playing Hard to
Teddy
Get.
Riley did Kissing Game. Yeah.
Oh, shout out to Teddy Riley.
Yeah.
And then like one of my favorites by them was Never Should Have Let You Go.
Oh
Um,
yeah. What's her name? Sister Act. Sister Act.
you're
Sister Act
right, it
2.
was on the track two
Yeah.
soundtrack.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah, they were amazing. But 112, again, 112 a group, all four amazing singers. Obviously, they focused on Silk's voice, but the rest of the fellas could blow. Like, don't play. And like some of their tracks that weren't, released as singles on some of their albums, where the other guys like Mike and Q and Duran got a chance to really do their thing on their leads. I mean, they could really sing.
Absolutely.
Um, and I'm sorry, Cupid alone wins this round for me. And I'm not taking anything away. I am a fan of High Five. I love them, but I gotta go with 112 on this one.
Yeah. This is also I'm gonna go with 112 also. But High Five, I absolutely loved when we were kids. My favorite was Roderick Poole, and
Yeah.
uh there was that terrible car accident early in the career where he was paralyzed from the neck down. So today, while I was going through Googling some of the pictures to use for the video, I found out that he passed away last year
Oh,
in
oh,
April of 2022. So I was like, oh, like he was my favorite in the group, and just really really tragic what happened, and
yeah.
they've had quite a few tragedies in their group. So we want to shout out to everybody in High Five, but I agree, 112 is going to advance. So now, T, give us the last matchup.
All right, we got our final round. We are going with Mint Condition versus Shy.
Okay, so to me, it's a no-brainer. Mint Condition, the definition of a band. Stokely, his voice is ridiculous. They, Pretty Brown Eyes. I'm sorry, nothing can compete.
Yeah, the end, period.
Yeah, the end. Period.
But,
Yeah,
but then
that's
you want to throw a little You Send Me Swinging on there too.
oh my gosh, like you got to be kidding me. Like absolutely not. So yeah, Mint Condition, amazing, amazing. Um, they obviously going to advance. Shy, of course, had If I Ever Fall in Love, which it was huge when it came out, and everybody was trying to sing and do the acapella and stuff like that.
Right.
So props to Shy, but Mint Condition is advancing.
Yeah, I agree. Mint Condition, like you said, were like the quintessential band. They're amazing, and of course, Stokely's voice is phenomenal. And Shy, I had to think for a second, like, what other song did they have other than that? And the other song I think of was Comforter.
What? No, baby, I'm
Oh, yep,
yours.
yep.
If you want me,
But just
that
a
was
quick,
cute. Yeah.
yeah. But just a quick story. We used to make a joke about Comforter, like if a guy would be like trying to console a girl who had just been
Dirty
through a breakup.
Mackin.
Yeah, Dirty Mackin. We would just start singing later. Like, girl, he trying to comfort you.
Yes, yes,
But yeah, we gotta get that to Mint Condition as well.
they trying. Okay, so we got it, y'all. The first round is done. We're gonna break this down again. Recap. Okay, so in the solo men's group, we have Usher and Luther Vandross, D'Angelo and Joe Levert. Babyface, Bobby Brown. Maxwell is going up against Johnny Gill. And then we're moving on to the Jackals, Boys to Men against BBD. New Edition versus Tony. We're going to have Jodeci versus Guy. And 112 versus Mint Condition. So our first round is done. Take a look at the bracket. We will be back. Part 3. We're going to finish this bracket up and finally choose our winner. Stay tuned for the next video. Say bye, T.
And I will be your comforter. See you later, guys.
All righty, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And look out for part 3 of our bracket. Thanks again, guys. Take care.
It's called the Twin Twist.